Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a bit of a different video. It is not going to be anything travel related, but I wanted to do a what I read this month series. So this is everything that I read for January, and the goal that I'm setting for myself is 5 books. So this is what I read, and I actually wanted to have this out a lot earlier. I wanted to have this out like the 1st or the 2nd of February, but I just drove 18 hours from Texas to North Carolina. So I just got back last night. I wanted to rest a bit today, but I'm getting it out nevertheless. And I've already started reading my February book, so I'm ready. But so yeah, let's just get right into it. So the first thing that I read was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Pretty much everybody knows this book by now. It's not anything new, it's not anything crazy. It's just that this particular copy my husband got from a Korean flea market, because he's in Korea right now. And yeah, this is what he found, and it was only $1. And it came just like this, no cover, no nothing. And I told him that was perfectly fine, so he brought it back during Christmas, and this is what I read. So the first thing that I read was a story that I already knew, but I enjoyed that. It was kind of nice getting to reminisce and get back to the nitty-gritty details that aren't in the movie. So, you know, 10 out of 10. I'm going to obviously rate it that. And also, I want to rate the books that I read, and I'm going to pretty much talk about the overview, like the plot line. I'm going to talk about kind of how it's written, you know, first person, third person, multiple POV, and I want to talk about kind of the setup of the story, but I don't want to give any spoilers because I want you obviously to read these if they suit your fancy. So the second book that I read was Secluded Cabin Sleep 6, and this one was honestly not bad. I think this one out of 10, I give it a 6. I feel like that sounds low. 7? 6.5. I'm gonna go with 6.5. So, here is the plotline. What could be more restful than a weekend getaway with family and friends? An isolated luxury cabin in the woods, spectacular views, a hot tub, and a personal chef. Hannah's generous brother found the listing online. The reviews are stellar. It'll be 3 couples on this trip, with good food, good company, and lots of R&R. But the dreamy weekend is about to turn into a nightmare. A deadly storm is brewing. A rental host seems just a little too present, and the friends have their own complicated past, with secrets that run blood deep. How well does Hannah know her brother? Can she trust her best friend? Meanwhile, someone is determined to ruin the weekend, looking to exact a payback for deeds long buried. Who is the stranger among them? So this one was an interesting POV. It was actually a little too much, and I think that's what docked it so low. This is about 5 different POVs. Yeah, I can do 2, sometimes 3, and I think 3 is my limit. 5, it was a lot. And there was one POV that was just not needed. Not needed at all. This character could have been completely out of the story. I'm not even kidding. They could have been completely written out and it wouldn't have changed anything. They are such an outlier that they just kind of feel like a filler character just to give some POV pages to somebody else, but that's it. I'm sorry. Besides that, it is written in kind of a mixture of first person and third person. So I think Hannah is the main character, and no, okay, it's all third person. Okay, I thought that she was in first person and everybody else was third, but no, it's all third person. So it still follows Hannah as the main character. She has the most POVs and is basically following her insight to the weekend of what's going on, but it's still in third person. And everybody else is kind of a supporting character to her, but everybody does kind of get their own say in the story. Actually, I don't know if the men really have any POVs. It's mainly the women, and there's a couple other characters. But what I can say about the book that is not a spoiler is that it is, you know, a creepy, kind of suspenseful whodunit kind of thing, kind of a murder mystery. but there's also other mysteries going on that you're not too sure about. Things being left on doorsteps and you don't know who left them. Things being tracked and you don't know who's doing the tracking. And there's also a time difference where there's a POV that takes place in the past, present, and that's it, not future. Well, I think future too. There is one that takes place in the future, actually, I think towards the end. So that could be a little confusing. It was confusing at first to me. And then the storyline where it's kind of past and present, I kind of got bored with it very fast. And then it ties in together in the end. But if you get exhausted by reading multiple POVs, I would steer clear of this one. I kind of don't mind them. As a story, though, I really liked it. This book also, especially with that whole like past and present versus the present, the storyline that has to deal with the past and the present, I don't care about it. I did not care about that story. But the present story about them, like at that cabin and everything, I thought that was really interesting. So it was a very love-hate relationship with the book. I'm honestly thinking about docking my score. I think I'm gonna dock it to a 5 out of 10, halfway, because I like half of the story. Half of the story is really, really good, and then the other half, I don't care about the extra storyline, and I don't care about the extra character, and I don't think that they were necessary. So that's my review of Secluded Cabin Sleep 6. I really wish that I liked it more. It was still an easy read. I read it in 2 days. It was still a page turner. Even the parts that were kind of boring, I was able to get through them pretty easy. I wasn't like forcing myself to read it. So not that bad. But okay, time for the review that I think everybody's looking for. The Housemaid. Everybody on TikTok is talking about this book, and I get why. I get it. This was a page turner. This I read in less than 24 hours, and it was wild. It was a wild ride. I know a really common misconception, well, not a misconception, but it's a common thing that people are saying with this book, and they're saying that it's predictable. So I don't want to say it's a misconception because everybody reads things differently. But for me, it's kind of both. Everything was totally unexpected. Like the big plot twist, the big major plot twist. I did not see that coming. I didn't. But then after you hear the main plot twist, after that, they kind of do like, here's another plot twist, here's another plot twist, here's another plot twist. All of those I was able to predict. After the big one, the other ones, it was like, oh, okay, so that's why that happened. And then it was kind of easy. But let me just get right into the plot in case you don't know. Every day I clean the Winchesters' beautiful house top to bottom. I pick up their daughter from school, and I cook a delicious meal for the whole family before heading up to eat alone in my tiny room on the top floor. I try to ignore how Nina makes a mess just to watch me clean it up, how she tells strange lies about her own daughter, and how her husband, Andrew, seems more broken every day. But as I look into Andrew's handsome brown eyes, so full of pain, it's hard not to imagine what it would be like to live Nina's life. The walk-in closet, the fancy car, the perfect husband. I try on one of Nina's pristine white dresses once, just to see what it's like. But she soon finds out, and by the time I realize my attic bedroom door only locks from the outside, it's far too late. But I reassure myself, the Winchesters don't know who I really am. They don't know what I'm capable of. So yeah, this one was a page turner. Everything, like from the beginning to the end, it's very interesting. It drags you right into the story like that. So there's no slow beginning at all. But I had to force myself to read the first half. I'm not gonna lie. I struggled to read it. Not because it was hard to read, not because the writing was bad, or not because the story was slow. Nina, who she's talking about, I hated her character so bad that I almost stopped reading it. I don't think I've ever almost given up on a book because of a character. Usually it's because it's too slow or whatever, but I could not stand the character so bad I almost gave up. But I kept on hearing people say like, no, keep reading, and I did. And I'm glad I did, because a lot of things get changed in your perspective, but this was really good. It was really, really good. I think I'm going to give this one a 8.5 out of 10, which is honestly, I think, pretty high, especially for some of the things that I didn't like about it. It is a one point of view in the first half, and then the second half is a different point of view. I was kind of struggling on if I was going to tell you guys that or not, or would that kind of be a spoiler? But no, I don't think it is, because you don't know who the point of views belong to, and I think I'm just going to leave it at that. But there is a POV switch towards kind of the middle ends, a little bit like towards the end, and I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all. It was actually really insightful, so I liked the POV switch. So yeah, this one, 8.5 out of 10, honestly. A lot of people voted this one higher. I did not. I did not like it as much as the first one. It was just as easy to read, also less than 24 hours. I actually read that, and I had other things on my reading list, but I went to Barnes & Noble and I grabbed this one first, and I read this one first before I read the last one. But this one was probably a 6.5 out of 10. Honestly, I was not a fan. Way more predictable than that one. But also, I think it's because I kind of knew more about the character. I felt like I kind of knew what to expect more. I knew what her personality was like. So maybe that's what made it more predictable. But even the other characters, I was able to predict some things. I was still shocked. It still wasn't what I thought. Because you're also going to get a big plot twist in this one too. And I didn't expect it. Caught me off guard. But again, everything afterwards, I was like, okay, got it. So this one also has a POV switch. It adds to the story, of course. A lot of unanswered questions and everything get answered in the POV switch. But yeah, I feel like there's not much I can say about it. I am going to read you the plot so that you can see, but read it for yourself and see what you think about it. It's hard to find an employer who doesn't ask too many questions about my past. So I thank my lucky stars that the Garricks miraculously give me a job, cleaning their stunning penthouse with views across the city and preparing fancy meals in their shiny kitchen. I can work here for a while, stay quiet until I get what I want. It's almost perfect, but I still haven't met Mrs. Garrick or seen inside of the guest bedroom. I'm sure I hear her crying. I notice spots of blood around her neck and the white nightgowns when I'm doing the laundry. One day I can't help but knock on the door. When it gently swings open, what I see changes everything. That's when I make a promise. After all, I've done this before. I can protect Mrs. Garrick while keeping my own secrets locked up safe. Douglas Garrick has done wrong. He's going to pay. It's a simple question of how far I'm willing to go. So, again, with this, you're following the same first character from the book, like the main character, from the first book. And when she says, like, I've done this before, she has also her own secrets, as you heard from the plot of this one. So this is kind of a continuation of her past coming back in a way to kind of haunt her even more than it does in the first book. So I kind of like that element where it literally is kind of fueling itself into this story. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is that I don't like. I think I don't like the other characters a lot more. I got a stronger attachment to the characters in the first one, even though they weren't good. They weren't even good attachments, but I was still attached to them. I wasn't really attached to them. Even like the characters that weren't so good. I don't know. Like, you have those villains that you just like to read because they're so interesting. I just didn't find them that interesting. But I still like the main character. I actually enjoy her quite a bit, Millie. I think she's pretty cool. So I think that's what makes it more able to be read, because it's in her first person point of view. So I like seeing how she thinks and the inner workings of her mind. So this one was only a 6.5 out of 10. I forgot if I gave it a 6 or not, but 6.5. Other one is an 8.5. Last but not least, I'm just going to give my rating right now. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I love this book. Luckiest girl alive. You may have seen this on Netflix with Mila Kunis. So good, by the way. And it makes sense because the author, Jessica Nolm, she actually worked on the screenplay for that movie. So she was actually part of the whole production, and you can tell. Very, very accurate. They maybe only missed like a couple things, but they did really good. So let me just get straight into the plot of this. As a teenager at the prestigious Bradley School, Annie Finelli Ani Finelli, I forgot it's pronounced Ani. Ani Finelli endured a shocking public humiliation that left her desperate to reinvent herself. Now, with a glamorous job, expensive wardrobe, and handsome blue blood fiance, she's this close to living the perfect life she's worked so hard to achieve. But Ani has a secret. There's something else buried in her past, something painful and private that threatens to bubble up to the surface and ruin everything. With a singular voice and twist you won't see coming, Luckiest Girl Alive introduces a heroine whose cutthroat ambition has protected a scandalous truth and a heart that's much bigger than it appears. The question remains, will breaking her silence destroy all that she has worked for, or will it at last set Ani free? This was so good. So good. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to give trigger warnings. I want to make sure that I get into that. But this was so good. I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, it seemed a little hard to follow, but it was still really good. The thing that I did not like, and I vocally complained about this to anybody who would listen, she has a lot of hypotheticals go in her mind because she went through some really hard things. She has a lot of PTSD, so she has kind of not flashbacks, but she gets visions of things that could happen based on the things that she went through. So let's say I had PTSD about a storm. If I would hear somebody taking out their trash outside, I would automatically have a scenario where the skies grew dark and lightning split through and caught the house on fire, and then she comes back to reality. So you don't know if what you just read was a hypothetical situation that she created in her mind, if it was like a vision, or if it actually happened. So after reading it for a couple chapters, I was able to finally kind of make the distinction of when it was real versus a hypothetical situation. But I remember thinking like, Jesus, this girl really thinks in hypotheticals. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But then you learn why she is seeing those things and why doing a simple act is making her think of something else. So after a while, I didn't mind it too much, but in the beginning, it did confuse me. But this one is written in first person point of view, and you're following Ani, and I love her character. I really loved her character. I thought she was extremely relatable. Even her darkness, like her dark thoughts. I feel like they're dark thoughts that a lot of people have, but we don't want to vocalize them because you're worried about being judged. But she thinks them to herself, and she thinks them out loud and proud, but not in person, because she has this illusion that she wants to keep up of being the perfect girl. So she hides a lot of that, and I thought it was really interesting to read. And the story was fantastic. It was very dark, very dark. And that's the thing I wanted to get into with all of these, is that there are some trigger warnings I want to get into. But yeah, 9 out of 10 for this one. I don't think there's really much else I can say because I don't want to give a lot of it away, but it's so good. It's so good. It's a page turner. It's really interesting. This one took me a little bit longer to get through. I think it took me like 3 days to get through. I don't know why it took me so long, but I don't know. It was still super worth it. It was an amazing read. Let's get into some trigger warnings. This one has the most. This one has a lot of SA, gun violence, PTSD, what else? I don't think there is child loss in this one. I don't think so. I could be wrong. I don't remember there being that. So yeah, a lot of graphic SA and gun violence. So be in mind of that. These both are very strong with domestic violence, so keep that in mind. Child loss, which can be very hard, infertility struggles and things like that. I think that's probably it for these. Emotional abuse too, really just abuse in all forms, so be in mind of that. This one is mainly just graphic violence. This definitely was the most violent book out of all of them. This one had the most aggressive violence, and I would also say if voyeurism is something that makes you really uncomfortable, or stalking makes you uncomfortable, there you go. Wasn't there also stalking in another? No, I think this is the main one that is stalking. So these are some hard books. And then, you know, in Harry Potter, there are definitely some trigger warnings for the Battle of Hogwarts. some deaths happen that are gonna scar you for life if you love any of the characters. Anyway, those are the 5 books that I read in January. I am so sorry if this video was all over the place. I promise I'm going to do these so much more organized. This is just my first one, but I do want to do a rating system, talk about the POV, talk about the trigger warnings, read the plot, and then maybe talk a little bit more about them. But for my first video, this is what you got. So I hope you guys are going to stay tuned for my future book reviews that I have coming up. February is here. I'm already reading my first book of February. So I got 4 more, and then hopefully sometime in the first week of March, I will have that review out for you guys. So happy reading. Have a great one.